Hello there. Hope you're doing excellent today. This is Daniel, of course. Um, in this episode, we're talking to Natasha almost exactly 3 weeks after our initial conversation. And although she's, of course, still struggling, you can tell that dramatic things have actually happened. It's incredible, how much has changed in 3 weeks. And if you would like the full background, then please check out the episode that's titled "The Miseducation of Natasha," and that will give you the background. And I really hope you find this very, very helpful. And before we go to the episode here, a big thank you to Natasha for talking to me. And if anybody would be willing to do an episode like this, that is super helpful. That said, please take a listen, and I hope you learn a lot from this. Super nice connecting again, Natasha. How are you today?
Not so bad, Danielle. Not so bad.
All
A
right.
lot better. I think today is one of the better days this week, and I'm happy that I feel a bit better on the day that we're, scheduled to talk.
Chatting. Absolutely. So, I guess for anybody that didn't hear our previous talk, we connected. It was about pretty much almost exactly 3 weeks ago, and you told me about like this 9 month journey where you had like a lot of trouble sleeping. And I think, one thing I remember from like, right, like I think the same day or after we had talked, you kind of emailed me and said like, oh, um, you know, I'm I threw up all my medications and like you were making some changes and things like that, and we've connected in between, between, of course, but just like overall, like the three weeks since we last talked, like how have things been going?
So there has been, I think, positives and challenges, for lack of a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
word.
yeah, absolutely.
I say the biggest positive is just being able to have a little bit of confidence in your body's ability to sleep without sleep aids. Because when we did interface, it was just at that point that I was trying to find the confidence to completely get off of medications. And over the 3 weeks has been rough for me. It's been extremely rough.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is light in the tunnel in the sense that I've also experienced. Now I do feel as though my body has the ability to sleep without just the crutch of sleep aids and medications. So I would say that's the biggest win. And of course, the challenge is just healing and recovering. And for me, I think it's not just a matter of being able to sleep, but also being able to have restorative sleep. Um, and so I think it's a journey. And the first 3 weeks, which is the first part of the journey, has definitely been challenging.
Absolutely. Which,
Yes.
by the way, like I'm not surprised. I expect that it's really can be really rough in the beginning. But tell me more about that. You said, you have begun to start believing that, you can sleep like by yourself. Like how did that come about, and what have you noticed?
So the first week was actually better for me than the last two
Mm-hmm.
weeks. And I How did it happen? Yeah, I the very first day of I started the CBTI practice. Um, well, let me back up and say that before that, the week before that, I was already off of medications, but I was still taking sleeping aids. I was still taking things like melatonin. I was still popping them and still believing 100% that if I did not take pop a melatonin or pop some sleep aid, even though it was natural, that there was no way that I was going to sleep.
Got it.
And so I think I believe that sleep and sleep challenges is, and you may have your own opinion about this, and I'm sure your definition of it is a lot better than mine, but it is something that is psychological. And so I think just being able to interface with you and being educating myself on getting a better understanding and wrapping my mind around exactly what the root cause of insomnia is, I think that was what probably did it for me, because it changed the way you think and your attitude towards sleep.
So
Um,
it's almost like like it was almost like an educational thing when you started to like understand concepts and like
yes.
learn, right?
Yeah, and when you and like I said to you, Danielle, I wish I had met you, when I first got this, experience, this issue, because I think my journey would have been a completely different
Yeah,
one. And
yeah,
so just talking to you, and for the first time, I understood exactly, what was behind insomnia, what was causing it, what was perpetuating it. It's not something that got progressively bad,
exactly.
and so that I think. Did something to me mentally. And when I went to bed, I didn't have the same, I think, angst that I had in the past. And I think just having that, it may have reduced my mental noise, or uh, my, some of my, changed my thinking, changed the wire, my brain was wired or whatever.
Yeah,
But when I went to bed, just having a different understanding and a different attitude towards sleep, a lot, I think better positioned me to be able to have some sleep. So the very first night that I started to practice CBTI, I was able to sleep without any melatonin or any type of sleeping aid.
that
Um,
no, I think that's a really really big like just like starting to believe that I can sleep, that there's not something like fundamentally wrong with me is a
Wrong with
really
you,
huge,
exactly.
that's a huge step. I'm
Yep.
really happy about that. But tell me, so that's been like a little, I'm really encouraged by that. But tell us about like what's been the challenges, the main challenges.
Um, the main challenges. The first, I think the podcast we did was called Miseducation of
Right,
Natasha.
exactly.
Such a funny title. And I got to say that I'm still learning, the learning process continues for me about my condition. I think just yesterday, there was an event that happened that confirmed to me that you know I was, the sleep drive is impacted by anxiety.
Hmm.
And so I think the biggest challenge for me is re- you know restoring the feeling of being sleepy, particularly in the night.
Yeah.
Because when I do practice sleep restriction, and I get out of bed in the mornings, um, many days I do feel sleepy at the very start of the day, and then I have to fight that feeling. And as the day progresses, the sleepiness just completely disappears out of the window. And then at night, not feeling sleepy, not feeling tired, feeling alert, and choosing to go to bed, when you're not sleepy or tired. I think it affects the quality of the sleep that you are able to get. So for me, I think the biggest challenges, is still, and I don't think there's this is something that's probably like 100% in your control. So I am I'm being very tentative about what I say here. But the biggest challenges would be, building and building up my sleep drive, so that at night I'm, best positioned to sleep. That would be one. The second challenge would be distracting myself, and I think this is a very important one.
Yeah.
Being active, not necessarily physically active, but engaging myself in activities and events that will stop my preoccupation with sleep. And this is actually one of the advice that came from you, Danielle, which I appreciated so much. Because when you talked about preoccupation about sleep, and I reflect on the last 10 months of my life, I realized that I've had a full-time job about thinking and worrying about sleep for like the last 9 to 10
Yeah.
months. And
Yeah.
not just that, but a lot of negative self-talk. Um, so I think this would definitely aid my recovery. So re-engaging in life, getting off my couch, being active, doing things that, make me smile and think less about sleep.
Exactly.
And, I think that would put me in a better position to feel less anxiety. And over time, be able to sleep and not have the worries that, perpetuate insomnia. So that's the second thing. The third thing, I don't really have a lot of structure in my life.
Mm-hmm.
After the
Mm-hmm.
insomnia started, I gave up a lot, and what I didn't give up, I lost. So I lost my job, I lost my life. So now I also think it's super important to be able to have a structure and have a routine, whether it's like working or, doing something, could even be volunteering. So for me, even though it's a very scary proposition to think about getting into
The workforce.
the workforce, and it's scary because you question, will I be able to think clearly, would I be able to interface effectively with colleagues, would I be able to run meetings, and be able um, to communicate effectively with peers. And so that gives you pause. But I've also changed my thinking about work. I feel a little less scary,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
particularly because you are in the picture and you've been so supportive.
Thank you.
So, but I really think it's important to have that structure and have that routine, because if you don't, then you're constantly. I get bored very easily. So even if in a given week, if I find like 7 or 5 interesting things to do, repeat. If there's repetition of those activities, then even if it's a comedy show where the comedians are super funny, over time I get very, very bored and like, oh, I've done that
Exactly.
already. So I think work can be a potential outlet where it's very diverse and versatile, and it can you know provide me with a much needed distraction. So when I weigh the costs and benefits of going back to work, the cost, of course, is the risk of not being efficient at your job and being fired for it
Yeah.
because of your sleep challenges. But the benefit is that it may actually be the best pill, or one of the best pills that you can
Absolutely.
take in your battle against insomnia. So when I weigh the costs and the benefits, I'm now actually very, very excited in a way to return back to work. And I feel as
Wow.
though I have a little bit more of a support system, because before you got into the picture, I was surrounded by family members who said, Natasha, you're crazy. You can't, there's no way you can go back to work.
Really?
you know
Okay.
what's wrong with you? You can't even you're not even capable of a lucid thought. How are you going to go and function? And so all that noise gets into your head and it does
Yeah.
something to you. So
Yeah.
now I actually feel I put it on my list of new and exciting things to do. Looking for a job and interviewing again, and taking one step at a time to getting to where I need to be. So now it's one of my key goals. So those are some of and then of course another big challenge, of course, is the lack of consistency in well, two rather. So one is a lack of consistency with sleeping. So now I have days where I do get some sleep relief, but then I would go for a stretch of 2-3 days without any sleep, and I feel like a zombie, and I feel
Mm.
as though I'm part of the world but not part of it. um, like
Yeah.
yesterday was really, really bad, and I was like totally like pushing myself to go for a walk. So those, I still have a lot of challenging days where the lack of sleep really almost cripples you, but you still have to push on. And then the last challenge that I would also share is again the quality of my sleep. And there, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges for me, because when all things being equal, if I have 8 hours of very light superficial sleep versus 2 hours of some restorative sleep, I would gladly take the latter. Because with restorative sleep, of course, you don't have like the brain fog, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
So I'm really looking, it will be like the best Christmas present if I get up one day and I actually have restorative sleep. I haven't had that for a very, very long time, for quite a few months. I
Yeah.
haven't had restorative sleep. So it's not just sleeping again, but also, having quality sleep where you get up and you feel as though you can really conquer the world. And I'll stop there.
Hey, listen, I'm just amazed, like listening to this. Uh, I mean, the insights and like everything you said just makes me so hopeful and like, I think it's great. I'm really like just I'm so happy hearing everything. What was I gonna say? There was one thing I wanted to point out that was really good. Yeah, lately I've come across like I thought about like the same thing you thought about here, Natasha, which is like a lot of people think of like you have to do something that's kind of engaging, distracting, etc. during the day, and a lot of people go into like physical exercise, which can be great, but it's as you point out, like kind of mental distraction and variety is just as important. So that's just an insight I wanted to share. But overall, like what you're going through right now is like when everybody that is like a CBTI expert or provider will say that CBTI works, but it is hard, can be hard. And that's, exactly what you're describing. These first weeks can be really tough. But to be honest with you, overall, I'm like, I don't have much to add. I think really like almost the most important thing I want to say now is like, don't don't be tempted to like change anything or tweak things or like just like stay on this path you're on, and do all the things you're meaning to do. And I believe, like, I have so much confidence in that. The next few weeks you're going to see more and more of like. I know the first week for you was the best, and then the last 2 weeks have not been that good. But I think you'll see more and more of that first week, and then you'll just see like, I think things will just get better and better as long as you like keep your eyes on the goal and just like keep moving forward. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that so much. You have no idea how much your emails have anchored me on like my really, really bad days. I
Oh
was like,
no.
wow, it really spoke to me, and it really, gave me fuel to say yes. I need to push on. So I appreciate that so much.
No, I super appreciate that you're willing to come and talk to me, and I think not only you have benefited from this, but I've learned a lot, and other people will hear this and get so much hope. So, you know what? I think we'll actually wrap up here, and then just hang on, and we can talk a little bit more after this, Natasha.
Sure, I appreciate that, Daniel.
Okay, thank you.